Okay, so God bless us all. One of the things that I have been drawn to more is praying and singing old hymns. And I had one of my friends that you guys know from Cash is cracking up last night. So um pulling yourself out of a funk or feeling like you're like depressed or things are never going to change is like a theme that's going on in different areas for all of us, but it's there. It's like things are not moving fast enough. And so we had the Sagittarius new moon that pushed in more energy for something that we planted 6 months ago to release and come back. Meaning 6 months ago there was a full moon in Sagittarius, and so we were releasing things, and this is no doubt helping us to release so that we can receive that which is new in this new moon energy that we've planted probably, I would say, 18 months ago. So it's a cycle. You can plant right now, but the planting for this moon is really not going to come back until 18 months later when it comes back around new. And that's, excuse me, going to be like, let's say 12 months. Okay. Yeah, 12 months. Because it will be around November again, right? So we're receiving something new that we planted over a year ago. I say 18 months ago because it looks like 6 times 3. Anyway, I don't want to get us caught up. So let's say 12 to 18 months ago. But here, there's a release, I feel like, in a receiving. So, with the um what's the name of it? The Mercury going retrograde right at that time, it pulls us back into some of the last month energy that we had, and also the last retrograde that we had. And, I was listening to someone, I can't remember who it was, or either I was reading something, and it takes us back to the shadow. Anytime we look at Mercury retrograde, we can look at the shadow, and we studied the shadow side of us back in 2020 of June and July intently. You could go back and look at those videos or listen to them, or just look at the fact that Mercury itself has darkness and light. And so when you look at what's happening with us right now, because Mercury has been in Sagittarius and it just crossed over into Capricorn, what we've been doing is looking at our good and our negative. A lot of times, our shadow will cast on people around us, but it's us that we have to look at how we um how we present ourselves in the midst of circumstances as we are dealing with right now, maybe not feeling our best. If you're not feeling your best, then the best thing is to retreat, take time away, because this is a time of retreat. It's a lot that we've all been through collectively, and we continue to go through, which means that we have to tap into our inner resources, and that means that we have to take time to rest the mind, body, and the spirit. When I look at Gemini in Sagittarius, which is retrograding back into it, even though, and I'm saying Mercury, Gemini is Mercury, and Hermes, the god Hermes, it's retrograding back into Sagittarius, even though it has been in Capricorn maybe a few days, or maybe one, or so it's not been here in Capricorn long, but it's going to retrograde back over Sagittarius. And what's happening is that we're looking at Gemini energy that we have in our chart that needs to be balanced out. The light and the dark. When I look at that in Sagittarius, I even look at it as parenting issues. If I had problems with my mother, if I had problems with my siblings, community, um, housing, it's going to go around your chart, and that's what you're going to go back to looking at. So The Mercury retrograde is like mirror, mirror on the wall. You know, here we are again. I was watching The Huntsman last week, and I was like, wow. And I meant to do a recording on mirror, mirror on the wall, you know, and give a synopsis of, to me, Snow White could have been put in the position of looking at the Wicked Witch, but it was a mirror of something in her that many people won't look at because they only look at the witch as villainous. But you know, there's many philosophers that have said you meet nobody but yourself. You know, I've heard um, well-known leaders state that. Um, And I believe it at this time in my life because you're either meeting someone that is challenging you to be better or you are challenging them to be better. It's always back and forth. And this was the case with you know, Snow White and the Wicked Witch. Let's just say that. Her problem, the witch, her problem was vanity. She didn't want to get old and she wanted to be the fairest one of all. She wanted to be the prettiest one. And so when the mirror told her that she was not, you know, she set out to kill the one that was called as the fairest. So these two have a problem, and it's darkness and light. And so darkness is going to try to take you out, and the fight is going to be won by the one that's most strategic, the one that is most um, thirsty to conquer. And the thirst is not so much about earthly circumstances as it is spiritual when we talk about shadow. There's nothing really that can win over spiritual circumstances. So when we look at the shadow self, the shadow is always following us, and we can be afraid of our own shadow. If we paid attention to it, we begin to start looking at why is there a shadow. However, the reason why we have a shadow is because we're alive and we cast a shadow. That means that our shadow attracts something as we vibrate. So this is Mercury in retrograde. And retrograde means that we're reflecting over what. And so a lot of people will worry about contracts and all of that, but you need to worry about the contract with yourself. You understand? So here is another area. You know, I've looked at, and you know, the asteroids will come. Pallas Athena came back to me last week. We've talked about Pallas Athena, and the recording is in um not the description, but in the videos that I put out. There's information on her. I don't want to get into it, but here we are with goddess Ceres, and it's spelled Ceres. I've talked about these goddesses. We didn't get through with all of them in this class, but let's look at goddess Ceres. And I may not go in order as we read, but one of the profound things about her is that she's the goddess of agriculture according to Roman mythology. So her name is different in other areas. I feel like she could be like Hathor. Hathor is a goddess that was over agriculture, and um Venus energy with Taurus rules over agriculture, right? So let's focus on Ceres. And so as you can see her name, it, you know, it reams out different thought processes. But what I found studying her at different points in times is that cereal was derived out of her name. So agriculturally, the impact of this asteroid Ceres moving through the signs and houses can be interpreted symbolically to reflect various life areas and personal growth themes. So as she goes into Capricorn, what we have is, you know, for me, Capricorn is going to tell me that Ceres is going to work towards my identity and my self-development. as a mother, nurturing and nurturing others. My identity is in nurturing and helping others. Okay. And so that's what you all will look at also in the house. I think that for Honora, it's going to be your sixth house. And it says health, daily routines, and service. Ceres and Capricorn here might stress the importance of routines, especially related to health and service. It's a time to be disciplined about self-care and duties. So she's asking you to bring a balance, right? And that's your where Ceres might be for you. And it also could be because I know that Ceres and Pallas Athena and what is it, Juno, all of them will sit in the first house of a person. So if I read like the fifth house, which is the house of Leo, not one to confuse anyone. Um, the fifth house is Leo's house when we look at the traditional natal chart. If I look at the sixth house for Honora, that means that I'm looking at the transiting aspect for Ceres. But the fifth house, as she was born, if Ceres is there, that's her first house. So this means that this transit could bring a disciplined approach to creative projects or romantic relationships. It could also involve nurturing children or young people in a structured way. When I look at these, I look at the three different aspects because I could look at this and say for Nora, it's going to deal with her identity if it is in her first house transiting. It says this transit will emphasize nurturing one's personal ambitions and goals with discipline. It could be a time for self-reflection on personal needs and how to responsibly care for oneself. So all of that still goes forward to say that in those three houses that she would be balancing self-care and ambition, duties, children and projects, all of it is the same. Any questions?
You said I would be balancing all of those things at the same time, like finding a harmony between, or just more
Yes.
structure. Okay.
Yeah. And it is structured because good question, because Capricorn is about structure. So structure is always going to come up when you have planets that are entering into Capricorn, like even as Mercury came into Capricorn, people would begin to speak more structured.
Okay.
The structure, the structure of lives and relationships is being sought out, even when we look at the stuff that's going on with P. Diddy. The structure is coming in from the universe and saying no more of that. So Capricorn is always about structure. And if someone said, well, what does Capricorn have to do with it? Um, there's something in his chart that's bringing in exposure and structure. And I know that because he's a um, a Scorpio, that's where the exposure is coming in and the deep hidden sadistic behaviors because Scorpios are very sexual. So moving on from there, I don't want to get into that. Oh yeah, Venus is detriment in that sign, so it's not giving no love to him right now. It's not giving love to anybody that has Venus in that has Scorpio energy right now because Venus doesn't is not comfortable in the eighth house or in the Scorpio house. So it's almost like it's in a dark place. It's not, helping with love. And so once she moves out of there, some of the exposure of his issues could lighten up, but he's still going to face the circumstances because Capricorn and Pluto have been going through houses and they've been turning people's lives upside down. Um, Let me just go a little bit farther and say that Pluto has been sitting in Scorpios. A person that has Scorpio, sun, moon, or rising has been sitting in their third house. So that means even community issues for him has been exposed. But now with Pluto coming to the end of its transit in that third house, which is Capricorn's house for Scorpio, is saying, you know what? No more. This is ending. All of this here stuff that you've been doing to people, your communities and groups is ending before I leave and go into Aquarius. All right. So if you understand that, any questions, you're free to. I went off a little bit, but I want us to understand when planets go in and out of the houses, it's not like we don't have any hope. Our hope is in prayer. And our hope is also in change. The heavenlies and the energies of the heavens expose energy that is corrupted. That means that it's not in harmony with peace, which is what we're here for. So if we are here for peace, then that means we demonstrate peace. If we are not demonstrating peace, then that means that we're demonstrating some type of hell. Amen. I was singing Jesus be a fence all around me every day earlier as I was coming home. Um, Even if I ask, I want you to protect me as I travel on my way. I think it's okay for us to pray, but I want to know why I feel like it's okay for me to be protected if I don't protect others, or if I don't change myself enough or become conscious enough to protect others from my um, fallacy behaviors or maladaptive behaviors. And that's the reason why we study spirituality or we study astrology, because we want to get to know ourselves better. So here, um, we could this asteroid itself, it goes around, it says it takes 4 to 6 years for the asteroid to circulate the 12 houses. 2019 to 2023 makes at least 4.5 years, that Ceres was in Capricorn. So we're looking at 2019 where it was. We can think back to 2019 and track what we were experiencing and the frame of mind we were in, and that's collective, and that's also, excuse me, on a individual basis, because even if the collective is not evolving, for instance, it's up to us to do it, and then we become a collective evolution of evolution. You can't be a collective of evolution if everyone's waiting on everyone else to change. We're called to change, and that's why most of us have religious foundations. It's not that we were actually called to be conformed, but given some information to help us change from the maladaptive behavior that we have. Like some people will talk about people with mental illness, but people with maladaptive behavior, or these people that we're listening to that are being called out as some type of where they've done something malicious. Of course, they're being accused. They hadn't been to court, but the thing about it is that they're being accused. They could be cleared, but right now they're standing in the position of the accused. And so everyone has a day when the accuser comes and accuses you of something. And you have to go through justice. That's how the earth is, and that's how the spirit realm is. And if you're found guilty in the spirit, then you have to do your time and you lose. You lose yourself, you lose things, and you are called for transformation, right? That's how that goes. And this is just a little bit of information on how, judgment goes and justice. But if we could get ahead of ourselves and stop believing that we're God and goddesses in the frame of man where we could just do anything and treat people any way that we want to, we would earn more spiritually, mentally, and physically to overcome karma in a negative way and receive positive karma. So here, Ceres had a daughter that was abducted by Hades, and this is a story of Persephone. And every time that Venus has her retrograde, this is kind of like the story. But they say that Venus is her sister. You can read the myth on Ceres and find out more about her. But the part that really stuck out with me today or yesterday when I wrote this was the abduction and how Ceres is, the goddess of agriculture, but she also had her hand in the seasons. And it was said that it was like a sunny season and it was warm all the time until this abduction happened. Her anger and grief caused famine and the cold season to begin, according to the myth. It feels to me it feels more cold this year than it had in other years, and it could be my mindset. But she entered into Capricorn, which means that the universe will reflect energies that send, types of turmoil and turbulence. Why? Because this is all about the world. And so her energy as an asteroid will send coldness. We already have a season of cold, and it's supposed to be connected to in a myth to her. This is why we have the season of winter, but it's colder to me. And I was thinking, wow, it feels colder. I've experienced talking to people that they feel it as well. And you can't get your body warm enough or it's overheated. And so here we need balance as well. But the key factor is realizing why we might be cold or what's happening in the universe. So her anger and grief caused famine, agriculture. It caused there to be a lessening of, they said, grain, um, cereal on the monuments of her is supposed to be up under her arms. You could look at her pictures, and then the cold season begins. So think about, someone or something that's been taken from you, how you handle it, and the return of the situation after 4 years, coming to address healing or turmoil, depending on how you handle it. And so what I'm saying is that there can be a return of reciprocity after 4 years, depending on how you handle a situation that caused you bitterness or hurt or anger. Someone could have lost a loved one, and there could have been, a not fair situation concerning benefactors, wills, that kind of thing, just for instance. And you could receive retribution at this time. You could have someone that was in your family that you've not talked to, and a relationship has been mended in this season because this was all about her daughter being taken from her. And the thing about the conversation and how all of this happened is Zeus stepped in, and Zeus is a energy of prayer, philosophy. Even though he could be a philanderer and he was very sexual with his daughters and his wives and everyone, he came to a place where he still had that higher learning, and he was able to make treaties. So he made a treaty with Hades, and Persephone, which is her supposed to be her daughter, was able to come home 6 months out of a year. So there is where balance came in. And so when we look at this, we don't want it to just be a myth. We want to look at how we handle grief and how we handle life situations that say, okay, you can't have that right now. How are you going to act? Are you going to be bitter or are you going to get better? You see? And so at this time, some people could be going into a season where they're actually experiencing a seeming loss. And some people are going into experiences where they're receiving the benefits of their karma positively because they have responded. And peace, be still and let go and let God. They surrendered and they took in the experience and they lived the experience and they have a experience to talk about how they overcame. All right. Does that make sense? Just if it makes sense, let me know.
It does.
Okay. All right. So is there anything, questions that you want to ask before we go? Because I think that's where we can leave it. The Cancer moon is coming in, and we've discussed the Cancer moon. We know that it's a full moon and it's going to be a release of things in that house, which is going to be your 12th house, and it's going to be my 7th house. So all relationships are going to be leaving or something about them that's not productive. And your 12th house is going to be reflective of that Cancer house. You have any questions?
You said the 12th house is going to be reflective of the relationships that are changing or what's not working for me, right?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
going to look, the Cancer full moon is going to sit in your 12th house, which has to do with organizations, religion, spirituality, even the bedroom, self-sabotaging. And you're going to be reflective of things that you were doing that you need to release.
Got it.
You're going to be reflective of how you handle things and release them because it's a full moon. And you could be in that energy now because it's going to be next week, I believe. I don't have the dates. That means that some part of spirituality that you used to hold on to, you're going to let go of. You just said, you've been more aware of meditation and prayer and chanting. You see, that's part of it. So you could be letting go of just dreaming that things will get better, and now you're being more proactive and being aware to be proactive. That's what that's about. That's 12th house for you. It's like, okay, I believe that Jesus will fix it, but I gotta talk to myself and the Christ in me. You see, that's a
Yes.
part of how we reprogram. You feel what I'm saying?
Yes, absolutely. You put it into words so well just now. And it's something that I've begun to grasp, and I realized that, several weeks ago, I was not even just several weeks ago, for months, I was doing really good at holding myself accountable and making sure I had that daily time, with God and that prayer and the all of the things. It was almost like um not a safety net, but more like a routine that I had set up, and um just to bring about like my best self, for things to work in my highest good. And it was almost like I stopped doing it. I let
Mm-hmm.
You know, when certain, you know, things happen and circumstances, and sometimes we let those get the best of us. And I've been in recent years, I've been better about waking up to it and not letting it go on for months and months and months, and just kind of snapping out of it and, you know, getting back to myself, grounding. And that was the routine that I had every single day. And I kind of got away from that. And so I realized, like, okay, Nora, you've got to pull it back, pull yourself back to that where you were, you know, you saw growth and, you know,
Mm-hmm.
prosperity, and you saw things moving. And I was more in tune. And so you know, I, like I said, I woke up to that, and I started setting those things that I, you know, had been doing back in motion this week. This week.
Good.
So yeah, and literally like this morning, um, you know, after I had done chanting and everything, and I just, anytime I felt my mind wander, I would just be more diligent in pulling it back and
Good.
refocusing. And I started to see a turnaround almost immediately. um, I was like, okay, I get the message, I
Good
see it.
job.
So this was right on time, and I
Mm-hmm.
appreciate it. Thank you.
That's good. And you look at also that that moon is sitting in what is called the home. So it's reflective of mother. It's the moon energy and mother. So whatever circumstances that come up with strengthening the bonds between you and your mother and also home with you is going to be reflective of you doing what you're doing to keep you balanced so that you don't go back into old areas where you may not have been happy or at home, and you keep that mindset that I'm not sabotaging myself or forfeiting anything because I make me happy. It's me. I choose happiness. I choose wealth at home. I choose the blessings. In organizations, you may speak out about things that are not right because that's 12th house where that moon is coming in. You know, you might be somebody that's going to do some trend setting in organizations that you're a part of. And so we could go on discussing that, but what's going to keep you true to yourself and being able to continue to go forward is what you said. I felt the need to pray more. You know, I did too. Um, and, it's not that I don't pray every day, but I amped it up. Even when I'm at work, just taking the mind of prayer even more at work and taking time more than once or twice, while I'm at work. Why? Because I feel the need. And I feel like what we don't understand is that in 2019, we had a famine coming in. The world changed. It had never been shut down before, into 2020. All of that, she was in Capricorn as that was going on. Coming out, you understand what I'm saying? So there's something that's coming that is not about us being fearful, but to be mindful. This actually reminded me of Joseph being called into the place of prime minister, um, to help with making sure that the people and Egypt had everything that it needed. When you go back into Genesis, I think 49, 50, you can read both books, anyone that listens. And what you'll find is that you can pray about your money and you can sit in prayer and it's going to happen. We feel better because we begin to pray. And if there is anything that looks like your shadow coming in and doubt is coming, that's when you begin to pray. No doubt. Shadow is about doubt. Your light is about no doubt. Shadow is about doubt. Your light is about no doubt. And so the power of creativity says that when I read the Bible, if you read the Quran or whatever foundation, Buddhism, it's always about asserting the positive where there's doubt every day. Just about maybe one day I may miss, but since we came back from the cruise, I write shift your mindset because even with the scriptures here, you create your own identity, you create your own wealth. When we look at this page and we're talking about the goddess Ceres, it says first house, self-identity, second house, values, possessions, self-worth. All of that is about the person, but it's inside of them, right? So as we as we go on here, today I wrote there is a crisis in consciousness which causes individuals to feel they are mentally unstable. But I challenge you who's reading to use Philippians 2 and 5. Let this mind be in you that was also in Christ, as much as possible, so that the Father in you can gain control over your mind, body, and spirit, and your soul, that the crisis might end. So the crisis causes you to cry sometimes. Somebody might say, well, I haven't recovered from 4 years ago when these asteroids were in this place. They're not there to destroy us. The planetary alignments are not there to destroy us. The ignorance that we've been served in the past to say that if you study the planets, that you're like worshiping Satan. That's because they didn't want us to become aware of as above, so below. Listen, if you say as above, so below, or as in heaven, so it is in earth, then why don't you study what's in heaven? Why are you just studying what's in earth? That is an imbalance in itself. It cannot profit us anything if we don't know what's happening over our head. So here we get an understanding. And as you read, anybody out there, email me at kim@kimwarnersworld.com, kim@kimwarnersworld.com, and I will give, you'll get this, here, the first house, the wheel, first of all, it gives you an understanding of your identity. The first house says self-identity. So even when we look at Aries was about I am only because she was identifying with herself in the Aries house. She, he, whoever you are. So Aries are always going to be discovering themselves. They got to know who they are, even if they don't know who they are. They are amiss in life if they have not discovered I am. I am what? I am peace, I am joy, I am love, I am happiness, I am money, right? But if they always tell about I this and I that, that ain't gonna work. Why? Because I am is the ram that discovered. That's Moses' language. Fourth house, as we go on, we can look at let's say third house, communication. See, you see how they go? Self-esteem is in the the second house, third house, communication. What are you communicating about yourself? What are you communicating about your community? What is your communion with God? The key word is communication, siblings, short term. What does that have to do with Hermes? First of all, before I can communicate the truth, I got to find out the lies about myself, the shadow. The fourth house, home, family, and roots. I'm not going to go through all of this here. And no, it's not always self-explanatory because the consciousness has not received the first house is my identity. This is Moses. Moses didn't know who he was until he went out into the wilderness. He was deprived of that wealthy house. He didn't know who he was because he was stripped, living without water. Imagine him being in the desert, lost, right? I don't know who I am. And then after enough of I don't know, all of that kind of stuff, he wanders, or Jethro and him come into contact, and then he meets with I am. All right. I think that's enough of my preaching, but that teaching, Ceres, if something was taken from you, something can be brought back to you to reward you for the way that you handle yourself. To me, that's what that is about. So, Honora, how you handle yourself can be the big payback. That's in that James Brown, that's what I live, the big payback.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Anything else? And we
No, ma'am.
close up. Okay. God bless you. And the Lord is our shepherd. We shall not want. That's the word. We shall not want for anything. Thank God for gas in our houses, gas in our cars. Thank God for our transportation. Thank God for food. Thank God for clothing. Thank God for shoes. Thank God for health and wellness. Thank God for a mind of peacefulness and clarity. Thank God for everything that you can. Thank God, and then praise Him, because His word said He will never leave us nor forsake us. All right. Blessings.
Amen.